Welcome to the On Your Side podcast. I am Gary Harper.
And I'm Susan Campbell.
You know, we got summer coming up.
We do.
Where did the past 5 months go?
It went by in an absolute blink, and now I can tell you are summer ready. Last time we were chatting on the podcast about your mullet situation.
Yes.
Your hair is freshly cut.
It has been resolved.
You're ready for the summer.
I think I actually found a stylist that is better than the one I have been using for years.
All right.
So
upgrade.
It all turned out. Yeah, the mullet in the back is gone. I'm glad you're concerned about the mullet.
It needed to go.
It needed to go. It kind of aged me, I think.
You look fresh. You look ready for summer. Do you have summer plans?
I do.
What are you doing?
My wife and I are going to Costa Rica.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Have you ever been there before?
Never been there.
Why did you choose that location?
Because we've never been there.
Amazing.
Yeah.
What are you going to do while you're there? Is this kind of just like a relaxation trip, or are you a go?
Yeah, we're a little of both. So we're hitting a couple of different towns. We have reservations in like 3 different towns. The first one's going to be a beach, just to kind of get it out of our system. We're only going with a backpack.
Whoa.
I have a backpack and she has a backpack. That is it.
That is not how I travel.
And when we're there, we're going to do what the locals do. We're not doing Uber. We're going to do public transportation.
Okay.
We're doing, like the bus. We're eating at all the local joints. We're not, sometimes, when you go to somewhere, you stay at a resort, you're in your own bubble.
Yeah.
You don't really get to experience what that country is or that city or whatever is like. So, yeah, we're going to change things up a little bit.
That sounds like magic.
Yeah, so that's coming up. That's our big summer vacation. How about you?
Just our classic trips.
Okay.
My parents' house in upstate New
Yes.
York, my in-laws in California.
Right.
We're going to let the kids, do all of the summer activities. We are actually having my son go a week early to my parents in upstate New York. So he's going to get to go to like Camp Campbell.
Oh, wow. Very cool. Now is he going to be flying alone?
No, my dad is going to fly out to our house, spend one night, and then they're going to fly back together.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool.
It'll be super fun for him.
Oh, that'd be so
We used to do that when we were little. My brother and I always went out there.
Yeah.
Same place in upstate New York, or right around the corner.
Great one-on-one time too with grandpa and grandson. That is so cool.
You know what? He already packed his little backpack. This is like 6 weeks away. He already packed his little backpack, and he packed 2 of his stuffed animals, 1 pair of swim trunks, and a little screw and a nut and a bolt, because he said he can't wait to do construction projects with grandpa.
Oh my God.
Isn't that so cute?
That is adorable. That is so cool.
They're going to have fun.
I bring up vacations because when you're away from home, at least a lot of people do. I don't know if I like to get away from the electronics and everything. I don't do Facebook and all that stuff, right? No. But people need.
I've put you on Instagram. You might not know it.
Really?
I have a bunch of clips of our podcast on Instagram.
Now I'm gonna have to check it out. But when you're in, say, Costa Rica or somewhere, you're going to have to use Wi-Fi to, kind of get on and do your emails or whatever it is that you want to do. It can be pretty dangerous out there.
It can, yeah.
And, I haven't really considered this that much before, but that's why we're talking about it. Wi-Fi scams, how to avoid becoming a victim.
Well, and what they even are, I think a lot of people might not even realize it's a possibility.
There's something called the evil twin. Sounds daunting.
That really does.
So
what is the evil twin?
We're going to find out exactly what that is. We're talking to Eric Plam. He's an internet security expert and president at SIMO, a company that offers speedy internet access. How you doing today, Eric?
I'm doing really well. Thank you, Gary.
Yeah, you're joining us from Reno. How are things up in Reno?
Reno is beautiful today. Nice warm day, but a little bit windy.
Yeah, we're getting up in the hundreds. We've hit the triple digits already. We're right around 105, so that's about normal for this time of year, but it's going to be up to 118 in probably a month or so. Yeah, you'll be okay, Susan.
I don't know if I will.
Hey, so a little something, as I say, about Wi-Fi scams. What are the Wi-Fi scams out there, and how can we avoid them?
It is a problem. So just as you were discussing before, there are millions of people going out on vacation this summer, and they're going to anywhere from nearby to far-flung places like Costa Rica or Hong Kong or Paris. And so what we've discovered is that Wi-Fi or connectivity broadly is very much like water or air. It's become a necessity in life. And so when people travel, they are really eager to stay connected with friends, family, work, social media, or maybe even taking care of their banking and other sorts of important things while they're away on vacation. And so what people tend to do is they try to find Wi-Fi connectivity for their laptop or their tablet or even their phone if they're afraid of roaming costs. And a lot of times people will gravitate toward free Wi-Fi in places like hotels or cafes or airports. And this can be a very dangerous place.
Tell us about the free Wi-Fi, because we all like free. And if I'm in a coffee shop or somewhere and it's offering free Wi-Fi, sounds good to me. But what is the danger with that?
Yeah. So the danger, as you referenced it earlier, there's this concept called a man-in-the-middle attack. And what that is that you could be somewhere, let's say you're traveling and you pop into a cafe to catch up on some work, and you go to, hypothetically, let's call it Ace Cafe. And so you open up your laptop and you can see and you try to choose a Wi-Fi network, you can see Ace Cafe. You just make the assumption that says, oh, this must be this cafe's Wi-Fi network, and I'm sure it's going to be just fine. So you connect. But what you may not know is there could be a nefarious actor nearby that actually is using a laptop or some other wireless device and has set up an alternate Wi-Fi network that you unknowingly connect to this other network. And what happens is you're actually going to get internet access, but along the way, this person may be intercepting your data.
That's crazy. That's the evil twin.
That's right. The one twin is the actual Wi-Fi hotspot that this hypothetical cafe might be running. And the evil twin is the one that looks just like it that some people may have connected to.
And I mean, for some people, they might say, whatever, I'm just checking my email. Who cares what, if some random person has information about the email I sent to my mom.
Yeah.
But there can be a lot of personal information even in that, let alone if you're doing something more significant.
Yeah, great point. I mean, what can they steal once they have you?
Well, Susan, that's a very, very good point. And what a lot of people don't know is that your personal information is very valuable. So there's some websites cite regarding the dark web that your online banking credentials could be worth up to $100 to somebody on the dark web who would want to hack into your sites. Another thing is a full identity profile that could include your social security number, your date of birth, your email address, your physical address. That could be worth up to $1,000. And so there is real value in stealing your information. So you're right. It seems like such an innocent thing to do, to pop onto the internet, just grab some emails, maybe check out a website, buy something on Amazon, and then close up and head out. But you could have been hacked in that very short amount of time.
Wow, that's amazing. Let me go back. Let's just say Susan and I go into Dino's Cafe. We're going to have a cup of coffee together.
That sounds great.
And we have to get work done because,
always on the clock.
We're always on the clock. Hope the bosses are listening.
Right?
So we go into Dino's Cafe and we have to get work done. We get our phones out and we see Dino's Cafe, free Wi-Fi. Let's log into this. How do we know it's the right or the legitimate Dino's Cafe, and how do we know it's the fake one?
Yeah, so there's a couple things. First of all, look, when you go into this cafe, Dino's, check out to make sure that they have a network ID and a password listed somewhere, for example, on the menu or up on the wall. That's kind of the first step, just to make sure that it's a legitimate Wi-Fi access point. The next thing, too, is as you log on, this sounds a little bit ironic, sounds a little bit backward, but if it's too easy to get onto a Wi-Fi network, then that is actually a sign that it could be a compromised network. So usually if you're at a hotel, it's going to ask for your room number. If you're at a cafe, it's going to ask for a password. If it's just too easy, just one click and you're on, you might be on a suspicious network. So those are two things. The next thing too is I would recommend that you get a VPN, which stands for Virtual Private Network. This is actually really easy. You can go to your favorite web browser search engine and search for VPN. There's, let's say, 5 or 10 very legitimate providers of VPN service, very low monthly fee. And these guys will provide, VPN provides a tunnel, secure tunnel between your device and whatever site you're trying to visit. This is another really great way to stay secure.
How much do VPNs cost?
Oh, I think the best ones cost certainly under $10 per month.
Oh, well worth it then, right?
Definitely, right.
So
there's other couple things that you could do too to stay secure, and that is to set up your own Wi-Fi hotspot. And there are 2 great ways to do that. One is you can call the carrier for your phone, whether it's one of the big 3 networks in the United States. Disadvantages are you have to pay for that, a monthly fee, and it's usually limited data. And if you're overseas, it's limited speeds too, and it'll smoke your phone battery. However, the good news there is it is a secure connection. And then the other thing you can do is to buy a standalone Wi-Fi hotspot, which is a battery-powered device that takes in 4G, 5G signals and turns it into secure Wi-Fi that can be used anywhere in the world.
Wow, go back to that one right before that one. You mentioned the hotspot. So if you have the hotspot, you're good to go. Then you should be secure.
Yes, that's right. So 2 hotspot options. One is to use your phone as a hotspot, your smartphone as a hotspot, and the other one is to buy a dedicated Wi-Fi hotspot.
Oh, okay.
2 really good secure options.
Good.
We have a couple of those at work that we use when we're out and about.
Right.
So let's talk about, are there risks of using a free, legitimate Wi-Fi hotspot? I mean, there might be at Dino's Cafe, let's say, they have a legitimate free Wi-Fi option. Are there risks involved in using that free choice, even if it's the real one, not a copycat?
Yeah, there are risks. It's all about, it's really not about eliminating risks. That's almost impossible. It's just about minimizing risks. And if you're using the legitimate hotspot in this hypothetical cafe, you're probably okay, but keep one thing in mind. Cafe owners and managers are good at what they do, but they're not necessarily experts in technology and connectivity. And so a Wi-Fi hotspot at the cafe may have been inadvertently set up in a non-secure way. So it might be that it was not because of bad intentions. It's just that they're not experts and didn't set it up in a way that keeps you secure. So there are always risks in doing this.
That's a great point. I mean, Dino's Cafe is known for its
coffee,
but maybe not known for, setting up a secure site.
I've never seen you at a coffee shop. You've never bought a cup of coffee.
You're right.
Outside of home a day in your life.
I have probably 4 cups in the morning, and I refuse to be the guy that waits 20 minutes in line at a Starbucks or a Dutch Brothers or whatever.
What if you could guarantee that there was never going to be a line?
I still
Is it more the weight or the cost?
It's the weight and the cost. I'm not going to buy an $8 coffee. It's insane. I don't know why people do it. Plus, they're walking around with this big cream at the top. It's sugar, sugar, sugar. So you got me started now.
Are your 4 cups of coffee in the morning, are they black? How do you take your coffee?
That is funny because just a couple of months ago, I transitioned to a protein, protein drinks. I get the vanilla flavor, so there's no sugar, and I use that as my creamer in my coffee.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it tastes great.
Maybe you need to open a coffee shop
and call it Dino's.
And you could charge $8 a pop.
Is there really a Dino's Cafe around here?
I don't think so.
I just made that up. So.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
If there is, we love you.
We digress. So let's get back on track here.
I do remember one time I went on vacation, and it was a place abroad, and we needed Wi-Fi just to literally check. I was still in college, so we needed Wi-Fi to check in with our parents, to email them once a day and say, we're good, we're safe, everything's going well. And it was like by 15 minutes, you could go to the front desk and you would buy like a 15-minute chunk of time of access to the internet.
Oh,
that's
wow. Yes.
That's how far back this goes.
Yes.
I know you don't buy internet in 15-minute chunks anymore, but
Right.
yeah, I can remember that feeling that pressure of like, I have to figure out the Wi-Fi situation.
Yes.
I have to be connected.
Yes. Are there just some things that you would recommend staying off of when it comes to Wi-Fi? For instance, even if you're on a legitimate site, let's say you're at the airport and you're using the airport's Wi-Fi, not probably a good idea to do some banking on there.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So again, the idea here is to minimize risk because you won't eliminate it. So that's a very good point. Anytime you're on a free or even public, even paid, but public Wi-Fi, just be careful what apps you're actually opening. It may be relatively safe just to get onto your social media, make a few posts, and then start to think of things that are more risky, a little more risky to check your email. And yes, very risky to go onto a banking site and make wire transfers and enter your passwords.
Oh, gosh.
So those are things to look out for. There's another thing, too, that's very important is when you get to your web browser and you type in, let's say, your banking institution's address, make sure you look in the upper left corner of that browser to see either a lock symbol or an S after HTTP. So HTTPS, S is for secure. So there's a few little minor tips like that too that can give you a little more assurance that you're connected safely.
Yeah, how much longer is it going to be before a scammer figures out how to put that lock on there or to put the S for secure to mimic a legitimate site? You know, it's a matter of time, it seems like. Well, listen, have you ever been a victim of any kind of Wi-Fi scam before? You know, maybe previously before getting involved heavily with SIMO, and is that maybe why you opened the company? Were you ever a victim?
Well, I wasn't personally a victim of theft that I know about, although I do have a monitoring service that checks to see when any of my details get thrown onto the dark web. I'd recommend that to anybody too. And so I do see that some of my information doesn't look like anything too deep can be there. But one of the reasons I got into this business, to your question, is not being ripped off by nefarious actors stealing my data, but more about egregious roaming charges. I travel frequently overseas, and I remember not too many years ago when it was something crazy like $1 a megabyte for roaming data overseas, and I would come back with hundreds of dollars of roaming fees after a trip. And there are stories on the internet of people with thousands of dollars of, so it was more that danger, the threat of roaming. And that's what got me into this business at SIMO. We've created this great Wi-Fi hotspot line called Solus Hotspots, and they help you to avoid roaming charges while you're traveling all around the world. So that was really the motivator for me there.
All right, very good. If people want to find out more about you or they want to find out more about SIMO, where can they go?
So check us out at www.simo.co as opposed to com. That's our corporate site. And also, you can just Google Solis, S-O-L-I-S. That is our brand of Wi-Fi hotspots. And it's a great way to stay connected while you're traveling around the world this summer.
Yeah, well, hopefully I won't be victimized when I'm in Costa Rica.
I think you do need to have a hotspot plan, though, right?
I'm going to let my wife take care of all that.
You're the consumer reporter, Gary. She's counting on you to do this.
But she's the tech-savvy one, and I'm just the follower. Listen, I know my limitations, okay? When there's something electrical in the house that goes out, I call an electrician. When there's something with the cell phone or social media or we're going across the ocean, it's all in her hands.
Okay.
So,
Cindy, you're on the clock.
I'm going to use my phone for my boarding pass. And then once I'm on, I think my phone's going to be turned off. I just don't want any problems.
Well, you need it to take photos, right?
Well, we'll use hers. All right. Hey, listen, Eric, thanks so much for being on the On Your Side podcast and safe travels. And when you do travel, listen, don't get scammed.
Hey, thank you so much. Nice to speak to you, Gary and Susan.
The On Your Side podcast is produced by Brad Denny. Our audio engineer and editor is Todd Martin. Segment producer is Colin Stanton. And I'm Gary Harper.
And I'm Susan Campbell. If you have a problem you can't resolve, maybe we can. Send us a message through azfamily.com or our AZ Family mobile app. Look for the On Your Side section and leave us a message. Thanks so much for listening to the On Your Side podcast. And if you like it, leave us a review. We'll see you next week.
On Your Side is on Good Morning Arizona every weekday morning at 6:45 and 7 o'clock, and every weekday evening on Good Evening Arizona at 4 and 5 o'clock. You can also catch it on Arizona's Family News at 9 on 3TV every weeknight.